Welcome to episode 2 of Ask the Contractor. I'm Jason Pye. I'm a Los Angeles contractor and designer, and today we are going to go over 3 new questions that you should be asking a contractor. If you haven't before, go back, check out the other video. We did episode 1 where we talk about the first 2 questions you should be asking a contractor when you're about to start working with them. And those 2 questions are going to be whether they're licensed, bonded, and insured, and how long they've been in business. So if you want to go into depth about those things, please go back, check out that video, and then come back to episode 2, and I'll see you here. So let's get into it. We're going to be talking about 3 things today, and these are kind of these are the meat and potatoes. This is like the big stuff that kind of really can affect someone's mentality of how the work is going to go. So these are really important things, and that's really timeline and payment schedules. Okay, those 2 things are a huge aspect of when looking for a contractor, kind of what you're going to be looking for and how you're going to handle that whole process. Another thing we're going to talk about is permitting and inspections. So we'll start that off pretty easy. We'll usually do an easy one and then get into the harder stuff. So we'll start with permits and inspections, and then we'll go into timeline and what that payment schedule should look like. All right. Starting off here with permits and inspections. So first of all, not every project requires a permit or inspections. There are some that are just kind of facelift remodels, easy to do things that genuinely don't require a permit. But most projects that involve any structural changes, those are going to require a permit. And your contractor should know what permits you need, how to get them, and not necessarily be willing to get those permits for you, but needs to know how to deal with those permits, how to get them, and how to call those inspections and deal with those inspections appropriately. You'll be surprised at how many contractors leave getting the permit, calling the inspections, and kind of dealing with all the clearances to the homeowner. Homeowners don't know how to deal with this stuff. And if your contractor doesn't know how to deal with this stuff, you're going to have a problem. So let's get into what this all kind of means. First of all, there is a way that a homeowner can pull a permit for themselves. A homeowner can pull a permit as an owner builder or an owner occupier permit. Okay, that means that they are pulling the permit on their behalf, and that they are signing with the city that they are going to hire someone who's licensed, bonded, and insured to do the work. The way that a fully licensed contractor would do it is they would actually just go pull that on behalf of the owner, and they are going to do the work. So they're stating with the city clearly that, hey, I'm a contractor doing the work for this job. On the other side, the owner is saying, hey, I'm going to do some work on my house, and I'm going to hire someone, and I'm going to take the responsibility for who I hire. Okay. Either way, don't get confused. It does not matter how the permit is pulled. If you're a homeowner and you want to pull the permit, so you have control over who you hire, and you don't have to deal with changing contractor information with the city later, go ahead, pull the permit. It does not affect the job. Like, regardless of who you hire, as long as they're licensed, bonded, and insured, and have all the proper paperwork in place, they will be liable for your job. It doesn't matter that they didn't pull the permit with the city. So be aware of that. You can even potentially have a contractor pull the permit for the work and then never even hire them to do the job. You hired somebody else, even though, like, let's say you have an issue down the line with the project. You know, all the paperwork is going to go to the contractor who pulled the permit, and that's going to suck for them. But they're just going to claim, hey, we never got paid for this job. We never got a signed contract. Nothing ever went through. Deal with the homeowners, and they'll have proof. They won't have a deposit. They won't have payments. They won't have anything, right? So first off, it does not matter who pulls the permit. You should be clear about that. But obviously, it is always better that if you know you're going to have this particular contractor doing the work, let them pull the permit, and they should not have a problem with it. If they do, that is a semblance of a red flag, just because they're thinking, hey, what if they don't hire me, or whatever, right? The other thing is really in the project itself. So what's going on in the project? You've gotten your plans, you've gotten your permit, you've gotten everything kind of from the city side done. Now you're in the depths of this project. And when a contractor says, hey, you call the inspections, you deal with the inspector, you deal with all these things, first of all, you're paying somebody probably a lot of money, even if you found a cheap guy, okay, which everyone knows they're all out there. Um, you're still paying that person money to do a job, and then you've got to take time out of your own schedule and deal with their job. Like, you've got to sit for 2 hours waiting for a city inspector to show up. You've got to figure out how to go on these online portals to clear clearances. You don't even know what a clearance is. I'm saying the word. You're watching it, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. I know, unless you're a contractor watching this. But that's unfair to a end user. That's unfair to a client. And the truth is that the unqualified contractors have no clue what to do. They do not know the portal system. They do not know how to work with the city. They do not know how to pull a permit. They do not know how to deal with regulation issues or inspection requests or anything of that sort. So if that matters to you, and you're dealing with a person like that, you're gonna be in for a world of pain, because when you don't know how to deal with these things, they're very difficult to learn how to do. For me, it's not complicated because I've dealt with it several times. I know what I need to do. I know the process. I know the emails and the portals and everything. And it's not like this easy one website thing. You've got to know what pages to go to and how to deal with all of it. So it's not a fun process. It's not something that's exciting and things that I'm looking forward to doing every day. But if you hire the right person, they're going to take care of it for you. So I hope that helps a little bit, make the permit and inspection phase of your job just a little bit more clear. If you have any questions about it, please let me know down below. I will get to it, I promise. Now, let's talk about the timeline for a project. It's really important that contractors are transparent about the work and how long they think it's going to take. When do they plan on starting? When do they plan on ending? How do they deal with change orders? What circumstances will affect schedule? And how do you deal with communication about scheduling? So these are really important factors to talk about with somebody before you hire them. Okay. The reason being is, if you don't have clear expectations about the timeline, if a contractor is working on 10 jobs at a time and he doesn't have a reason to push your job over someone else's, the incentive is just to follow the money, right? So if he knows that he can send his flooring guys to this job and get paid for it, and he has no incentive to really push your job further or, push it for time, he's going to let that job sit. And I've actually genuinely seen this happen, where a house will be in framing, they'll sit for a week before they get drywall in, and then they'll sit and they'll put drywall in slowly. And it's, instead of it being a crew of 10 guys busting out drywall, it's 2 guys hanging drywall all day, and they're just sitting there taping and mudding. And what a job that should take 2-3 weeks takes 6, because they have no real incentive on time. If your job takes 2 years or takes 1 year, doesn't matter to them. It doesn't make any sense to me, because if you're going to get paid, whatever amount of money for the job, why wouldn't you rather get paid that money in 1 year versus 2? Like, if you do it in 2 years, you just made half the amount of money, because it took you double the amount of time. So that's a whole other conversation. But the reality is that that's just the way most contractors work, is that they just don't care. Like, if they can push something else and have the ability of time on another project, they're going to take the time because they're pushing something else forward. So it's really important to have a clear conversation about that. And we'll get into that on the next video. Actually, we'll talk about, dedicated teams and things of that nature. But right now, let's just talk about timeline. So I think it's really important so something that I do, personal story, is I had a house that we were building, a 6,000 square foot house for somebody, and I said, on average, my houses for a 6,000 square foot home take about 14 months to build. But keep in mind, when I'm building a 6,000 square foot home, I'm building it for me. Like I'm the developer on that project. So when it takes me 14 months to build a 6,000 square foot home, I don't have any clients to deal with. And when I deal with clients, I need more time. I need to be clear about the fact, like, hey, if everything goes smoothly, you're done with the house in 14 months. But I need more time contractually to get you that product, because there's going to be things, and I'm always really clear about what circumstances may come up that'll cause me to need more time, and how we're going to communicate those things. Something that I actually learned from another contractor was, even if there's no cost associated to a change order, it's important to send a change order of time. And one thing that I tell my clients is, like, one change order is 3 weeks of delay. And that sounds like a lot. That sounds like, an exaggeration. And truthfully, 9 out of 10 times it probably is an exaggeration. But I've actually seen that happen. The point is making it clear that there was a circumstance that happened that caused more time to elapse that shouldn't have, right? So figuring out the process and how somebody might deal with it is really important. Sometimes it's nothing crazy. Sometimes it's just an email. Hey, this is going to delay us 3 weeks. It may not be formal. It may not be put into a contract. It may not be the most beautifully eloquent, written email or contract. It doesn't need to be, but the proper communication is what's important. Communicating with their clients that, hey, there's going to be a delay in this. We said 18 months. Now it's going to be 19 months because of this, right? This is going to push me a week. This is going to push me a month. This is going to push me. So being clear about that. So, like I said, have them be clear about when they're starting and when they think they're going to end. I think it's important to allow for cushion. So, like I said, I always say, oh, it'll be done in 14 months, but I need 18 contractually, or I need 24, depending on the build, depending on everything that's going to be in place, but stating what you can potentially have and what my maximum is, right? So I hope that helps you as well. If you have any questions about it, please let me know down below. Let's get into the third topic for today, and that is payment schedules. It's a pretty common rule that you should never pay a contractor completely upfront. It doesn't even matter if they're reputable or not. Sure, there might be large deposits needed for a product or things that might cost a lot of money. There's an open conversation about that. I'm not saying don't do it, but if someone's going to do something for you for $5,000 and they say, hey man, can you just pay me the $5,000 now and we'll take care of it? You might trust the person. I'm not saying don't do it, but there's a large rule saying, hey, let's stay away from that. Let's not jump into that sort of payment schedule and get them comfortable with being paid up front. What you'll find is that if you pay someone up front, and even if they do the work and they're trustworthy and they get everything done, now all of a sudden when you use them more and more, they're going to expect that sort of treatment. So let's say you do a $5,000 contract with them and they do a $5,000 job and they're great, they were wonderful to work with and everything. And then you go into a $20,000 job and you only give them $2,000 deposit. They go, hey boss, last time you gave me $5,000. I need 10 right now. You didn't do $10,000 worth of work, and you don't want to be front loading a $20,000 job for no reason. Like different circumstances, right? You might have felt differently about the $5,000, and this $20,000 job is a completely different scenario. Why is it your responsibility to come out of that money? So just be careful about how you deal with those things. But even a reputable contractor genuinely will not ask you for that kind of money. It is really important to discuss payment terms beforehand and to be aware of exactly how much they're going to expect throughout the process. You can either do it by dates or you can do it by completed stages of the project. So let's get into that a little bit. If you have a solid contract with somebody, let's say you're doing a $100,000 job and it's going to take 10 months, just to make the math easy, they might say, hey, listen, pay me 10 grand a month and, we'll close out. That's a pretty reasonable request. Maybe you might want to say, you know, let's do 8,000 a month, and then let's leave a larger balance at the end, or a lower upfront payment and a larger back end payment. Um, you can manipulate that however you see fit. But what you might be wondering is like, well, that doesn't necessarily make sense. If I pay him only $10,000 for the first month, there's $30,000 worth of actual cost associated to that first month. How is that going to work for him? Well, he might that contractor might be making the decision to say it's okay, I'll front load the first 20, but in month 3 and 4 I'm really not going to be spending that much, so I'll be able to get that money back, and I can float my business and I can keep everything moving. So there's definitely a way to kind of deal with those things. Or they might even say, hey, I need money, I need 30,000 to start the job, and pay me $5,000 a month for the remainder, whatever. Sorry, I didn't do the math on that, so if that's wrong, that's wrong. But there's ways to adjust and there's ways to deal with it, and every contractor has a different way of communicating their need for that. So you need to also be cognizant of money ask and genuinely ask them how they deal with it. Okay. The second thing is through stages. Now that's usually how I deal with it. I'm usually dealing with bank financing, so the clients are usually using a bank to pay me. So they are very strict about how they pay. They only release a certain percentage of dollars per job completed. So every month or every 2 weeks, they're actually either I'm doing an inspection for the bank, or the bank is sending someone to go do a review of the job to see what progress has been completed, and then releasing a certain percentage of that. So if I am billing for the stairs on a job, so I need $20,000 for the stairs, and they see only 70% of it is done, they're only going to give me 70% of their request, or 70% of the total request, right? So if my line item for stairs is $100,000, I'm making up the number. Please don't. I don't need the hate comments. If my total line item for stairs is 100,000, and they see that only 70% is done, they're only going to write me a check for 70K. Okay, that's how that works, and I think that that's a really great way to run, because that makes the contractor get paid for the work that's actually completed. Right, that means that it's on now it's on the contractor to pay his subs according to that, to keep everything in line appropriately. Project management, all of these things, they all get billed monthly, and they all get billed according to what's been spent and what's necessary. Nothing is over, nothing is under. It keeps things pretty clean, at least in my opinion. So I genuinely like that route, but I hope that clears up some thoughts, clears up some of the cloudy air there, and I hope that this helps you. If it does, let me know down below. If it doesn't, ask questions down below. I promise I will get to them. This is going to be a series that I will be doing a lot more of, and I look forward to answering your questions about these sort of things. So if you like this, please let me know, and I will see you on the next video.